Have you ever wondered how humanity went from scattered tribes to sprawling empires? What if the very idea of a king, a ruler chosen by the gods, was born not from ambition, but from the simple need to survive? This is the story of how our ancestors built the first kingdoms, a revolution that would forever change the course of human history. From the moment our ancestors first planted a seed, the world was destined for change. The agricultural revolution was more than just a new way to get food. It was the catalyst for a societal explosion. For the first time, small, nomadic bands of hunter-gatherers could settle down. These early farming settlements, once fragile and temporary, began to grow into large, permanent communities. With reliable harvests came a food surplus, an abundance that had been unimaginable for millennia. This surplus acted like fuel, allowing populations to expand at a rate never before seen. Villages swelled, becoming towns, and towns began to resemble the first cities. But this rapid growth came with a new set of problems. More people meant more mouths to feed, more land to distribute, and more potential for disputes. Who decided which family got the most fertile plot of land? What happened when a neighbor's livestock wandered into your crops? How were communal resources like water from a river or grain in a silo to be managed fairly? The informal, consensus-based decision-making of small tribes was no longer sufficient. People needed leadership, a central figure to manage these increasingly complex issues of resources, land, and conflict. Out of this necessity, a new kind of leader emerged. Tribal chiefs, once chosen for their wisdom or hunting prowess, evolved. Their authority became more formal, more centralized. They were no longer just respected elders. They were becoming rulers. And so, from the fundamental human need for order and control, the first kingdoms were born, rising from the fertile soil of the new agricultural world. The path to the throne was not always a peaceful one. The first kings and queens claimed their power through a variety of means, each establishing a different kind of legitimacy. For many, it was raw strength and military might, a charismatic warlord who could protect his people from invaders and lead successful raids on neighbors, could easily command loyalty and declare himself king. Others took a more mystical path. These rulers claimed a divine mandate, positioning themselves as a bridge between the mortal world and the heavens. They were not just leaders. They were seen as chosen by the gods, or in some cases, as semi-divine beings themselves. This connection to the supernatural gave their rule an unquestionable authority that no army could match. This concept of divinely ordained or inherited power led to the formation of the first dynasties. The right to rule was no longer just about personal ability. It became a birthright, passed down from parent to child. Royal families were established, creating a lineage that separated them from the common populace. To showcase this newfound status, grand symbols of command were constructed. Palaces, far more elaborate than any common dwelling, became the centers of power. Royal courts, filled with attendants, musicians, and officials, buzzed with the business of the kingdom. In this new world order, a profound shift in allegiance occurred. The ancient, intimate loyalty to one's family and tribe was gradually replaced by a more abstract, but equally powerful, loyalty to the king and the kingdom he represented. The creation of a kingdom was the birth of organized society as we know it. A single ruler, no matter how powerful, could not manage a growing population alone. To govern effectively, the first formal governments were formed. Kings surrounded themselves with a council of trusted advisors to help make decisions. Priests to manage religious rites and legitimize their rule. Generals to lead their armies, and crucially, tax collectors to fund the entire operation. This new structure created a more rigid and permanent social order. Society, once relatively egalitarian in tribal life, was now stratified into distinct social classes. At the very top were the rulers and their families. followed by a class of nobles and priests who held significant influence. Below them were the soldiers who defended the kingdom, the artisans who built its cities, and the vast majority of the population, the farmers, whose labor fed everyone. At the very bottom were slaves, often captured in war or born into bondage. To maintain this complex new order, informal customs and traditions were no longer enough. Formal laws were created and often written down for the first time, like the famous Code of Hammurabi. These legal codes established rules for everything from property disputes to criminal punishment, ensuring a level of predictability and control. As the king's power grew, so did his capital. Cities, which had begun as simple clusters of homes, developed rapidly around these royal centers. They became hubs of trade, culture, and administration, drawing people from all corners of the kingdom. This entire process marked a monumental shift in the human experience. The relatively flat, communal structure of the tribe was gone, replaced forever by a structured hierarchy that would define civilization for thousands of years to come. With the birth of kingdoms came a new, and often violent, reality. The struggle for land and dominance. A king's power was measured by the territory he controlled, and to protect that land and claim new territory, they formed the first standing armies. Unlike the temporary militias of tribal warfare, these were professional soldiers, trained, equipped, and paid by the state. Their sole purpose was to serve the king and defend the kingdom's borders. And with defined borders, a new type of conflict was born. Disputes over resources or territory escalated into the first true wars between nations. Large-scale, organized conflicts that could last for years. To protect their burgeoning cities and project their power, kings embarked on massive construction projects. Great fortifications, towering walls, and strategic watchtowers rose from the landscape. Physical manifestations of the kingdom's strength and permanence. These defenses were not just for show. They were essential for protecting the kingdom's wealth and people from rival armies. For the most powerful kingdoms, defense was only half the equation. Conquest became a primary engine of the state. Successful military campaigns brought immense wealth in the form of plundered goods, new lands to tax, and a steady supply of slaves to work the fields and build the monuments. In this new age of nations, military strength became the primary language of diplomacy. The size and success of a king's army determined his place in the world, and the shadow of war loomed over all political and economic relations. This revolutionary model of society didn't just appear in one place. It emerged independently in several key regions around the globe, giving rise to the first great civilizations in history. In the Fertile Crescent, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the city-states of Sumer and Mesopotamia blossomed, giving the world its first writing system, cuneiform. Along the predictable floods of the Nile, the Kingdom of Egypt united, creating a civilization of breathtaking scale and longevity, defined by its pharaohs, pyramids, and hieroglyphs. In the Indus Valley, a mysterious and highly organized civilization flourished, building some of the world's first meticulously planned cities. And along the Yellow River in China, the first dynasties, like the Shang, laid the groundwork for a cultural and political tradition that would endure for millennia. These pioneering kingdoms were far more than just collections of people and territory. They were laboratories of innovation. They engineered complex irrigation systems to control rivers and expand agriculture. They developed breathtaking architecture, from ziggurats to pyramids, that still astounds us today. They invented systems of writing to record laws, history, and commerce. They created the first formal codes of law to govern their people. These early civilizations were not just a passing chapter in the human story. They set the blueprint for every future city, state, and empire. From the tribal fire to the throne of a king, this monumental journey turned scattered bands of humans into the organized, complex, and powerful civilizations that would go on to shape the world we live in today.